Hey, this is my garlic bed that you may have seen on the previous tour video. Judging when garlic is ready is quite tricky. Sometimes you just have to take a punt and hope. Now, in this case, typically what I look for is 3 or 4 dead leaves and 5 or 6 green ones. These green ones will become the layers of paper that wrap around it and protect it. If you take it when it's too brown, the clothes will start to separate and they won't store as well. I mean, this one's going to store poorly anyway. I don't know if you can see because it's kind of skew with. So this one will be one of the ones that's I preserve will be preserved in oil. I'll show you the video of how I do that at a later date. It requires acidifying the bulbs. Because otherwise botulism is a real risk. Yeah, so and these will be coming out, well, it would appear that you'll see it tomorrow night, but it'll be just following on from this. The other indication is that there's a few hardnecks in here, and we've got our first scape from quite a weedy one. So you know, I think these are ready. These will come up, be topped up with soil and possibly leeks put in here. I haven't decided whether I'm going to put the leeks in this one or one of the other beds, but either way, fairly shortly these will be gone. Those of you wondering about your shallots, I'll show you the difference. These are autumn planted sets, and as you can see, they're starting to separate. They've gone yellow. There's a few that have started to fall over, but these are almost ready. I can leave these for as long as needed. You know, these can pretty much be left until they die right back. However, I'll probably leave these another 10 days, 2 weeks before I take them up, and then that will be those. Much earlier than I normally would because of the long hot summer, and that's also contributed to the size of the bulbs. They don't appear to be as big as they normally would. Not really an issue for me because I use almost exclusively shallots for pickling for family members who love pickled shallots. So yeah, it's not too much of an issue, that and saving for next year. If I bring you round and make you dizzy, these are spring planted sets. As you can see, all of this starting to swell. They're nowhere near the same situation as the ones that we saw a moment ago, and much greener. These will be in probably until the end of July, I would have thought, hoping I can get enough water to make it worthwhile, give me a viable crop on this part of my planting. So yeah, but I'll bring you back when I lift the shallots. Wow. Okay, so here we are on a nice cool evening. These are my strawberry beds that have gone everywhere that you may have seen in my tour video. I did a short pick on Saturday. Sorry, on Friday. Just half a dozen berries, and then here we are Sunday evening. Don't know if you can see that's quite a deep box. That's probably 4 inches, something like that. Yeah, I'll give you a weigh up when I get home, but that's quite a lot of strawberries for 48 hours, and we haven't. Okay, and this is my pumpkin bed. You'll see this is a huge expanse in between. That's purely because they're very greedy, and I want to give them the benefit of being able to root down into the whole of this 6-foot square bed. This particular pumpkin, the intention is for it to run all the way up around my deep beds, back down the pathway there, and possibly even down this pathway a little bit. You know, that would be an extraordinary run for a pumpkin of that size, so for that type, so that should be fine. And this one, the intention is to run that right down the middle of that path. Like anything else, as long as you're okay stepping over it, you're not going to do any damage. You'll see that when I planted them into mounds, simply because it makes watering easier. These are very thirsty beasts, certainly to establish, so they're in a mound with a little crater in the middle. They're planted into the crater, you just water into the centre. They've had huge amounts of, I mean, this bed was prepared with like fresh compost with a thin layer of manure in the bottom. They've also had large helpings of both bloodfish and bone and potato fertiliser. I find the potato fertiliser, if it's put right at the bottom, helps when they're setting fruit. Don't know if there's any science behind that because I haven't bothered to look it up, but it's just something I've always done, and I tend to get quite decent harvests. These guys have been in the bed now about a week to 10 days, and they're just starting to push out new growth. So they'll probably have another couple of days worth of waterings, and after that they'll be left to get on with it unless they start to wilt, in which case I'll water at the base. But like I said, I tend to be quite non-interventionist when it comes to my planting, if I can help it. Conversely, the courgettes, which have been in longer, these went in as tiny spindly little things, and you can see the amount of new fresh green growth and how much bushing up they've done in the probably, I put these into this bed about a week before that frost, so they've probably been in 3.5-4 weeks. These were covered up, so these were protected and safe. But yeah, so yeah, 3.5-4 weeks, and they're starting to bush out. I've got some more to come and fill this space once I weed it all over again. I've got some polka, I think 3 of those, and a green variety whose name escapes me, I can't remember. But yeah, this is what I'm challenged with at this time of year: 24/7 weeding. That is 3 days worth. So yeah, but yeah, you can see what happens. I mean, you could plant these in mounds exactly the same way as I planted the pumpkins, but frankly I find courgettes not really that fussy. They're going to produce far more than I can possibly consume and probably give away. A lot of this will end up in the freezer for soups and stews over winter, without performing at peak efficiency. I don't need them to perform at peak efficiency because, quite frankly, they could feed a third world situation with the amount that 8 or 9 courgettes can produce. At times you can get a courgette every other day from each plant. If you've got 9 over the course of a week, that's 30 odd courgettes. What you can do with that many. Anyway, yeah, just to give you an update on how they're doing and how they're settling in. Just a quick update on the Calabrese. As you can see, starting to head up. It's one of my favourite crops of the year, but it's not a particularly large head. That's 2.5 inches across, but that will get considerably bigger. Probably ready for harvest in 2 weeks, 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. But very close now, very close to being harvested. Most of the Calabrese comes ready at the same time from these beds. So if I pick you back a bit, there is a combination between these ones of Romanesco, cauliflower, I think it's all the year round, and Calabrese. The Calabrese will be out fairly shortly, followed not long behind by the Romanesco, and lastly it will be the collies, which are mostly in this tunnel. They're not heading yet. You can see they're starting to develop the centres, but they're not ready yet. They'll probably be 4 weeks after I get the Calabrese. It's not an issue for me in terms of, you can see they've got a purple sprouting that I'd forgotten I'd put in there. It's not an issue because most of this just goes straight into the freezer. So this batch here will go into the freezer, be floretted down. I just to make it maximise the space in the freezers more than anything else. So these will get turned into florets and put up for the season. Trying to find a Romanesco now to show you. I think they're all in the centres, it looks like. But yeah, these are pretty well established now. So a couple more weeks and those will be out. Depending on what I've got in what beds, it might mean that I'm able to free up an entire bed. It might mean I'm able to free up half a bed. But that's not an issue because typically what I'll do is if I've freed up half a bed here, I'll just interplant with salad type crops. It just gives them a better start, having the covers on anyway. So if you look over here, I've got some little gem lettuce that pretty much ready for harvest. I'm taking those this week, starting to. I've got some more obviously coming along, and I'll show you in a moment the beds for the new brassicas down the far end. I've got a variety of cauliflowers down either side. I've got kale and sprouts in the middle. The obvious reason for netting is to prevent from bird damage and from caterpillars. I was a couple of days too late for this one. That's caterpillars. I've killed them all off now, which is fine, but yeah. So these hoops are now in, and you'll see the scaffold netting that will go over the top and be pegged down with these U-bolts, U-pegs, and that'll be that. They will pretty much be left to their own devices, except maybe the odd weeding, but and the occasional watering if Mother Nature doesn't provide. But that'll be it. They'll be inside that tunnel now and protected from the ravages of the elements. I've got these two to go with the same things. That's to accommodate Calabrese and cabbage. That one will be probably I've got a few collies left over, so they might go in there as well. So it'll be a combination. I do mine slightly differently. So my rows are 15 inches apart that way, but 18 inches apart that way, and I stagger the central row so that they've all got a fairly decent spread. Typically, if I've got the room, and I won't know until I get to the third bed really, because that'll be the cabbages I do last, I like to give cabbages a little bit extra room, just because as they're hearting up, particularly Savoys, they do get pretty massive. So but yeah, that's the plan, just to bring you up to speed, and I'll show you some. I'll bring you back once I've got the cover on. And there it is, completed. When I've got a little more time, I'm a little bit more light, because the sun is just, might be able to see, just finishing. I'll bring you along when I construct a whole one of these, just so that you can see how I do it. I don't normally use this thin speed fit pipe, just because I happen to have a load left over. Normally I use the blue, thicker water piping, and I'll do that in these couple of beds. This was a bit of an experiment bed. You'll see it's bowing out massively. That's not too much of an issue, because this is a one season bed. So next spring, when I've got access to more timber, I'll take the sides off, mount it up in the centre, rebuild the whole superstructure with thicker timber, and then put it back together again, basically. These ones, when I saw the bowing, I just put some stretchers across to kind of keep it in place. But again, these are only 1 year beds, so won't be there for long, but at least these ones shouldn't bow out quite so much. So yeah, that's it. That's those guys all protected. A lot of people go around with the sewing machine and on this debris netting and set up these larger holes. I've never done it. I've also never had an issue. So it's up to you. I mean, if you want to spend the time doing it to be absolutely certain, please feel free. Until and unless I have a major issue with an infestation, something getting in one end, I'm not going to bother. Right, I'll see you on the next one.